Tonight, it's a wrap for the Toronto Raptors.
Fred, shot doesn't go, and that's going to do it.
We'll unpack the heartbreaking loss that sees the Raptors officially out of the playoffs and the former Raptor who led the Charging Bulls comeback.
Obviously, the plans have changed, so we'll have to just adapt and just keep going.
And Vaughan homeowners just months away from move-in, foiled by a quick-spreading fire that destroyed about 24 homes under construction.
There's definitely a customer base that's been going to illegal dispensaries.
Plus, Ontario's largest city without legal cannabis retail reconsiders its ban. Why Mississauga's mayor says it'll help crack down on illegal shops. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. After a season where the Toronto Raptors did not live up to expectations, tonight they failed to keep the lead against the Chicago Bulls at Scotiabank Arena. Losing the must-win game means the Raps' hunt for the playoffs is officially over, and the devastation was painted on the faces of fans at Jurassic Park. Greg Ross was in the middle of all that heartbreak tonight. Now he is inside the arena, and Greg, a nail-biter right to the end, but definitely a disappointing loss for a lot of people tonight.
Yeah, just a bizarre night for Raptors fans. I mean, the Raptors did give their fans plenty to cheer about. Unfortunately, it only lasted for about 2.5 quarters. In fact, the Raptors had an 18-point lead at one point in the third quarter of this game, and for some reason this game went off the rails for the Raptors, and that lead started to evaporate. And then by the time we got to the fourth quarter, for some reason the Raptors couldn't hit their shots, and they couldn't stop the Chicago Bulls superstars like Zach LaVine and, of course, former Raptor DeMar DeRozan, who just started to have their way with the Raptors in this game. It did go right down to the wire. It was close in the end, but the Raptors couldn't pull it out. I was standing in Jurassic Park at the end of this game, and I could see the dejection on the faces of the Raptors fans who had come out to stand outside and watch this game, and we were able to talk to a few of them right after the game.
It's devastating. In that third quarter, so many free throws that were missed. We really could have sealed the deal. 50% from free throw for most of the game, just atrocious.
I mean, tough loss. Up 18, I thought we had it. I was cheering from the third. I was about to go home almost, but you know, they came back. We couldn't sink our free throws. We couldn't make shots, and yeah, it just ended up bad.
18 points is crazy, I won't lie. That's crazy.
That's not something you can give up like that, especially when we have elite players like Siakam and Van Vliet. You can't be doing that.
And you heard a lot of those fans talking about just how disappointed they were with the way the Raptors were from the free throw line. They were really bad from the free throw line, only 50% from the free throw line, 18 of 36, meaning they left 18 points on the court that they weren't able to pick up. Free shots that they just couldn't hit, and that may have been one of the biggest differences in this game. Of course, there were some other things that went wrong for the Raptors in that fourth quarter. Nick Nurse talked about it afterwards.
It's if you miss 50% of them when you're 5 for 10, it's probably not a big deal, right? But I mean, that's a lot of misses, right? So we left a lot of points on the board there for sure.
Just miss some free throws, especially those 3 at the end or 2 at the end. Super important. I don't know. I just missed them, to be honest.
Obviously, a lot of hype going into this game because of the fact it was the Raptors going up against their former superstar in DeMar DeRozan. He wasn't the biggest factor in this game. It's not like he took control of it. I mean, obviously, he played a very good game. We saw Pascal Siakam from the Raptors had a very good game. But in the end, the Raptors just couldn't hold on to that lead. Their season is now over. And for DeMar DeRozan and the Chicago Bulls, they go on to play the Miami Heat now on Friday as they battle for that 8th and final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. And still, I guess, a Raptors angle when you think about it. It's 2 former stars from this team going head-to-head, and 2 best friends, Chris, going head-to-head in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. So if you're a Raptors fan, something to watch on Friday. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
A lot of people in our city will certainly be following along closely. Greg Ross reporting live for us tonight from Scotiabank Arena. And from home opener to dome opener, thanks to the unseasonably warm weather, the roof was open for tonight's Blue Jays game against the Detroit Tigers. This is the earliest the dome has ever been open, and it beats the previous record of April 16th back in 2002. And all that fresh air seems to have had a positive effect. The Jays rally back to beat the Tigers in extra innings 4-3. Taking you north of the city now, and it's been a difficult night for a lot of families in Vaughan. More than 20 homes under construction were completely destroyed after a quick-spreading fire fueled by today's strong winds. Dale Manukduk is live at the scene of the blaze tonight. And Dale, you spoke with a family who had been set to move into one of those homes in just a few months.
Well, that's right, Chris. This man has a lot just on the corner of Greville Street, which you can see that police are still holding. There's not a ton of activity there right now. Most of the hotspots, or all of the hotspots rather, have been put out, but we are seeing construction equipment being hauled out of here. I saw an excavator being trucked out about 20 minutes ago. Also a fire truck making rounds to ensure that everything is okay. You can really still smell the fire that was here earlier today that burned everything to the ground. And that man that I spoke with, he's really taking this all in stride. Have a look.
The kids were obviously looking forward to moving in and getting to know the place and everything. But yeah, we'll have to just, I guess, adapt and change.
Sumit Dadwal looks at the site where the home he, his wife, and 2 daughters were supposed to move into this fall. This afternoon, that all changed when a fire burned it and others to the ground.
So thankfully we didn't sell our existing home or put it on the market or any of that. So I think just considering that, we'll just have to weigh in and just keep going and just wait for the house to come up and let the builder and the process take its time.
Around 1 p.m., Vaughan Fire was dispatched to the site for a structure fire in this subdivision under development.
Crews arrived on scene and advised of 3 homes that were involved in fire at that time. It spread rapidly into a number of adjoining homes.
Nadia Emiliano was driving home when she saw thick smoke billowing from across the street where she lives.
Because of the wind, the flames were coming over, crossing over, and it actually started creating a fire on the other side where the other builders there.
The area was evacuated for a couple of hours. In addition to winds drifting the fire over to other areas, the under construction homes presented a unique challenge for fire crews.
With homes that are partially constructed, as we all know, they're wood, mainly wood composition, no fire protection, it will spread rapidly.
Vaughan Fire says it was one of the biggest fire events in some time. In total, 13 fire trucks and 52 crew were on scene and got it under control at about 3 p.m. At least 20 homes were completely burnt down and 10 to 15 had significant damage. Now, we did reach out to the developer, Chris, but did not hear back. We do know that the going rate for homes here is about $2 million. Now, thankfully, nobody was injured in this fire, but 2 firefighters were sent to hospital. That was just a precaution. We don't know the cause of the fire yet. The Ontario Fire Marshal and York Regional Police are investigating. Chris?
Yeah, it could have been so much worse. Thanks for this reporting tonight, Dale. Let's get to Colette Kennedy now. And Colette, today's unseasonable warmth was a record breaker, but tomorrow is going to be the warmest of the week.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Record-setting heat today. In fact, there were records in southern Ontario yesterday, but not at Pearson. So we saw a few more today, and I am forecasting us to be even warmer tomorrow. Now, the record tomorrow is a little harder to capture because it's a little higher, but I think we're probably going to get there. And you'll see my forecast high in just a second here, but just showing you the daytime highs from today. Yes, still some upper teens into eastern Ontario there for the nation's capital, but elsewhere, so many of these 20s, 27 in Windsor, 26 Hamilton and Toronto, and downtown Toronto or at Queen's Park, also a record there. Into one of the reporting stations in Hamilton, a record there. So it's this ridge of high pressure that's really in place and dominating things. You see, I've put the areas of low pressure, I've made them smaller here. I did this just to illustrate because they're weaker systems other than what's happening there along the coast of Florida, and we're not going to deal with that. But what does begin to happen, we start to get squeezed. We'll get a little more cloud cover into Friday, but really not going to feel the effects of rain likely till Sunday and probably later on Sunday. More on that coming up. 13 tonight. There it is, Chris, the reveal. 28 the high for tomorrow.
My goodness. All right. Thanks, Colette. Turning now to the future of Ontario Place, once again a focal point of Toronto's mayoral campaign. And today a staff report before councillors listed red flags with the provincial government's spa design. Ali Chiasson has that story.
When it comes to the old Ontario Place land, both the province and the city can agree on one thing, that it's an absolute jewel of waterfront potential. But they are very far apart in how to tap into it. The province has plans to build a spa retreat on the property, but that would mean clear-cutting hundreds of mature trees and the construction of a parking garage for about 2,000 cars. It's a far cry from the public green space some Toronto City councillors want, including Spadina Fort York councillor Ozma Malik.
It's the wrong direction for our waterfront. It fails to meet the intent of Ontario Place as a green, publicly accessible park.
A city staff report flagged the main entrance as cumbersome and would impede on pedestrian paths for non-paying members of the public looking to enjoy the waterfront. And despite promising to build a new beach and picnic areas, the Thermes Spa plan does not integrate the natural landscape as much as it could.
Everybody has amazing memories there, and those memories, are for people in Rexdale, people in Ajax, people in Barrie. People really care about this space.
Today is a significant step in the consultation process, and the organization Ontario Place for All has been a part of it from the beginning.
It is a key election issue because we are going to decide the future of the space for 50 years based on what happens in this mayoral election.
Speaking of,
when I was in grade 2, I was introduced to Ontario Place, and it was magical.
It just so happens former police chief and candidate for mayor Mark Saunders served as an advisor to the province on Ontario Place 2 years ago. He's not opposed to the spa idea, but is happy to see the consultation process through.
And the fact that the tenant agencies are going to be investing millions of dollars in towards this, and the fact that we're going to be creating thousands of jobs, this is a good day when we get it going. One of the city's failures is not doing anything.
The city isn't powerless. It owns 6 acres of land and 21 acres of water on the site, which it could refuse to turn over to the province, and that may alter its plans.
The province has offered the city other property to swap for the land at Ontario Place that the city owns. I'm actually standing in front of a swath of it here at the waterfront. That's something that City Council can eventually vote on. But you can have your say this Saturday when public consultations begin. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Another issue that's made its way into the mayoral by-election is the city's overdose crisis. And today, some candidates pitched their solutions to the problem that has been made worse by the pandemic. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has that story.
Debate over how the city should tackle its overdose crisis took center stage in the campaign trail today. In 2021, 591 people died because of an overdose in Toronto. Some mayoral candidates pitched their ideas to address the problem. The city is pushing the federal government for permission to decriminalize personal drug use in Toronto, and some candidates are taking issue with that. Candidate and former journalist Anthony Furey says he wants to pivot away from supervised injection sites.
And we must say no to new injection sites and instead put those resources into new treatment centers.
Former City Councillor Giorgio Mammalidi says the city needs to reverse course on decriminalization.
And so this comes out as policy with health without proper dialogue with the politicians at City Hall, and more importantly, without our families in this city.
Former Police Chief Mark Saunders says there's a danger in oversimplifying the problem. Funding needs to flow to treatment and recovery, he says. But Saunders also says if he's elected, he'll continue to support harm reduction efforts like supervised injection sites.
I do think that it's a health issue, but I'm not supportive of decriminalizing. I kind of feel like we're giving up when we answer it that way. Treatment and recovery are the two most important aspects when it comes to substance use.
The city's push to decriminalize personal drug use is backed by Toronto's medical officer of health and its current police chief. They say substance use is about health and is not a criminal justice issue. They also say the fear of being charged with a crime keeps many people from seeking treatment. City Councillor and mayoral candidate Josh Matlow says the city must follow medical evidence, and it shows measures like supervised injection sites save lives.
If somebody's going through a mental health crisis, is suffering with addiction, to simply just lock them up doesn't solve their problems, doesn't solve society's problems. We need to ensure that they get the care and the support that they can get.
Toronto first applied to Health Canada for an exemption to federal drug possession laws in January 2022. Last month, it announced it had updated its submission after a year of broad public consultations. It's not clear when the city will hear back on that application. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
New tonight, Toronto police are asking for the public's help to identify this man. He's accused of stabbing another man on a TTC bus last night. The bus was traveling westbound on Eglinton at around 11:30 when it happened, and police say the suspect got off the bus at Black Creek Drive. The victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries. A debate is brewing in Mississauga, one that's largely been decided in the rest of the province, whether to legalize retail cannabis stores. A new city report there highlights the number of people turning to the illegal market. Talia Ricci explains how councillors are reconsidering.
The Woods Cannabis Shop in Brampton is about as close to Mississauga as you can get.
It was a deliberate choice we made. Just given the fact that we were raised there, both me and my co-founder, we wanted to serve that community, and just given how competitive the industry is, it gave us access to an untapped market.
Co-founder Justin John says about 40% of their customers are from Mississauga. It was one of dozens of municipalities to ban retail cannabis stores when legalization came into effect in 2018. Now, 4.5 years later, there's a push to get Mississauga on board.
There's definitely a customer base that's been going to illegal dispensaries, also using text services and phone order services, that because they don't have the ease of access to cannabis.
That's the main reason for the push cited in the city staff report debated today. According to the Ontario Cannabis Store, Mississauga continues to be disproportionately served by the illegal market compared to communities that have opted in.
I have illegal stores in my ward, and they come with many problems. First, of course, they're not paying taxes. They're not paying GST, HST. They're the only visible game in town because they are operating brazenly.
The report also noted inconsistencies in the amount of THC in illegal cannabis edibles, dangerously high levels of pesticides, and packaging that could appeal to kids. Back in 2018, the city was concerned about having several stores in one block.
We've been watching very closely what has happened in the other municipalities, and the industry seems to have settled and consolidated, and we don't see the issues that we were originally concerned about. So at this point, I respect people's desire to have access to this legal product.
I think it's recognition that associated with legalization, the sky does not fall. I do think we'll continue to see the trend of municipalities opting in and allowing their consumers to access legal tested cannabis, and for some of those municipalities to get a little bit more tax revenue as well.
The feeling in Mississauga, it's about time.
They should, only because some people do suffer from chronic pain, and that is one of the sources that do help.
If people want to do it and it's legal, they're going to get it anywhere else.
I thought they were already legal. There's a couple around.
While it may mean some loss of sales at their Brampton location, Justin says he's looking forward to the opportunity to expand in Mississauga and see the community have better access.
It's going to be a bit of a process, but we're excited to see what the future holds.
A number of councillors did express concerns today about the placement of the stores and also the lack of time for public input. The motion to lift the ban on cannabis stores in Mississauga is set to be voted on next Wednesday. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Students at York Mills Collegiate in Toronto marked the International Day of Pink today.
Having so many people being out showing that Pink Day is just being you.
It makes me feel very happy that we collectively care enough about everybody in the community to have a day dedicated where people can open up and be themselves.
Perfect messages there. The International Day of Pink is honored every year by the Toronto District School Board. It encourages young people to challenge social norms and to stand up against bullying towards their LGBTQ+ peers. The keynote speaker at today's event was Martin Boyce. Boyce is a prominent gay rights activist, and he's also known as one of the last known survivors of New York City's Stonewall riots, considered a turning point in the LGBTQ rights movement in the U.S. and here in Canada. Back in with Colette. And Colette, it was a beautiful day today, but such an unusual stretch of warm weather this early.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. You know, we have a few things to look at. We're coming off a cool, snowy March, so any kind of a warm-up is going to feel quite different. We've had a lot of temperature fluctuations, but what's important about this is the duration of this pattern of what we're seeing. We're putting a string of days together. We're not done yet. of warmth and of sunshine, and it's more of a pattern we would typically see in summertime, kind of midsummer, and we haven't seen this really since last fall. So here it is. We are looking at record-breaking warmth again. We had it again today, but likely again tomorrow. And now I'm talking about Pearson because yesterday wasn't a record there. Patio weather prevails. Yeah, it's important. There's a tiny bit of humidity. I mean, not much, but it just also feels different from what we've been experiencing for the last several months, right? And with that, with the sun setting close to 8 p.m., that temperature really holds in some of the heat later into the evening hours. So whether you're grilling, whether you're out just enjoying the Jays or perhaps a patio and some libations, the weather is really permitting for that. But big changes, they're going to come. It's just that it's going to be likely starting to feel it into the weekend. Second half of the weekend, some wet weather starts to move in, but it's the beginning of next week where it's more dramatic. So we'll show you that on the 5-day forecast. Not a lot to show you here because that sinking stable air means that we don't have much cloud cover. UV index tends to be high. You do need the sunscreen. The flow continues from the south to southwest. That's why tomorrow I'm keeping us as warm, or in fact, a little bit warmer than what we were for today. And this is a look. These are like the overnight lows, actually, okay? So not even the evening temperatures that we get. We tend to hit these around 7 in the morning tomorrow morning, where we're still going to be in these double digits and mostly in the teens. 28 for tomorrow, Friday 25. We bring in more cloud cover into the weekend. We gradually cool it down. Rain with the risk of some thunderstorms. But if you check out Monday, the temperature, it's nearly 20 degrees cooler than where we will be for tomorrow. So that is a little dramatic, Chris.
Thanks, Colette. So have lots of sunscreen and water tomorrow, and we'll talk about the heat on the show tomorrow night. But for tonight, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can get caught up on our website anytime. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. And Maribel Tarouk has you tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.